7 bone-chilling motel stories that will haunt you long after midnight. The night was dark, and the motels stood like silent sentinels along the roadside, shrouded in secrets that could chill the warmest hearts. One such place, the Old Maple Inn, was the stuff of nightmares, not from its peeling wallpaper or flickering neon sign, but from the whispers that floated through its stale air. They said rooms 7, 13, and 22 were cursed, tied to events so bizarre that even the bravest patrons hesitated at the front desk. It wasn't just the worn-out beds or the rusted showerheads that made your skin crawl, it was the stories that unfolded behind those flimsy doors. Imagine finding a diary in a drawer, pages stained with something dark, telling of a stranger who never checked out. Did he vanish? Or was he still lurking, waiting for the next guest to take the fall? As rumors swirled, guests would shift uneasily on their beds, their minds racing. Were those creaks in the floorboards just the building settling or something more sinister? Someone once claimed they saw a shadow flitting through the cracked window, darting away just before they turned to face it. The sight left them wide-eyed and trembling, a tightness in their chest tightening with every heartbeat. And then, there was the lone traveler who checked into room 13, mumbling something about a gift. They never saw him again. The coverlet was found with strange symbols drawn in a language no one recognized. Locals warned that these symbols opened up a doorway, a passage to another realm, perhaps, but there was one story that stuck in everyone's mind, like a dark stain that wouldn't wash away. A mother and her son pulled up late one rainy night. When they woke up the next morning, they discovered that the mother's face had twisted into an expression of horror, her eyes wide as if she'd seen the most unimaginable thing. She couldn't remember a thing about the night before. The child, however, mentioned the lady in white. This tale echoed through the walls, the kind of tale that set your teeth on edge and made you avoid those dark corners of the motel. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Still, the Old Maple Inn stood, welcoming weary travelers despite the chilling stories. And the question remained, what truly happened within those walls? Who would be next to experience its harrowing embrace? Another storm rolled in, drumming against the roof, and for one guest sitting alone in room 7, hope and dread danced in a delicate balance. They could feel the weight of the unseen watching, waiting. The storm intensified, rattling the windows of room 7. Claire, a young woman in her 30s, clutched the worn sheet as she sat on the edge of the bed. Her heart raced. The unsettling tales whispered from the front desk replayed in her mind like a broken record. She glanced at the clock, 2:13 a.m. A chill crept down her spine, and she swore she felt a presence in the corner, lurking just beyond her line of sight. Get a grip, Claire, she muttered under her breath. It's just an old hotel, the stories are just stories. But the atmosphere was heavy, thick with an unshakable feeling of disquiet. She tried to focus on her phone, scrolling through old messages for comfort, but shadows darted in her peripheral vision, tugging at her sanity. Despite her bravado, she was exhausted. With a deep breath, she lay back on the bed, willing her eyes to close. Sleep would provide an escape, even if it was temporary. As her eyelids grew heavy, the wind howled outside, and there was a soft knock, then another, more insistent. Claire bolted upright, heart hammering in her chest. Who could be knocking at this hour? Everyone else in the motel must be asleep. Mustering her courage, she swung her legs over the side of the bed and tiptoed to the door. Peering through the peephole, her stomach dropped. There was no one there. Just the wind, it's just the wind. She stepped away, retreating to the bed, but the knocks came again, more rhythmic now. They echoed in her bones. Fearing she'd lose her mind if she stayed cooped up any longer, she turned the knob, opening the door a crack, and there, standing in the dim light, was a figure dressed in white. Long hair draped over her shoulders like veins of night, her face was a mask of sorrow, hollow and haunting. Claire gasped, nearly slamming the door shut, but the figure raised a hand as if to stop her. "Please, help me," the voice trembled, a whisper that vibrated with desperation. "It's trapped. You have to find it." Before Claire could question what she meant, the figure drifted backward, melding with the shadows before disappearing completely. "Wait!" Claire cried, stepping out into the hallway, but all that awaited her was darkness. The motel felt alive around her. The walls seemed to whisper, voices echoing snippets of past sorrows, regrets hanging in the air, unease ignited within her. Was she supposed to find something? What had trapped this woman? Heart racing, Claire felt drawn into the ethereal terror of the motel's curse. She couldn't turn back now, not while the urgency lingered like a ghost in her mind. Glancing toward the direction of room 22, she remembered the stories how something was hidden within its walls. Was the woman connected to that room? Claire swallowed hard, her breath hitching when the lights flickered, a brief hint of crimson running through the corridor. Now wasn't the time for doubt. With every ounce of defiance, she marched toward room 22, her pulse quickening in tandem with the encroaching shadows. But the air was growing thick with a looming question: if she was supposed to help, who or what exactly was she helping? As she reached for the doorknob, an ear-splitting scream pierced the silence, sending a shockwave through her core. Time stood still as fear clawed its way back up her throat. What now? She swallowed hard. Was it already too late? Heart pounding, Claire hesitated at the door of room 22. The scream echoed in her ears, a chilling reminder that she was no longer just a frightened guest. She was caught in a web of desperation, the urgency of that ghostly figure lingering in her mind. She steeled herself and turned the knob. The door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit room. Dust hung in the air, swirling under the flickering fluorescent light. It smelled musty, like an echo of memories long confined to this space. The curtains, heavy with the weight of neglect, seemed almost alive, shuddering from the gust of wind that seeped through a broken window. "Find it," she murmured, her voice trembling. What was she looking for? The hairs on the back of her neck stood up as she stepped inside, the floorboards creaking softly with each movement. The room was sparsely furnished, a bed with stained sheets, a rickety dresser with drawers half open, and a mirror that reflected nothing but darkness behind her. It felt as if the shadows were inhaling her, trying to pull her deeper into their twisted narrative. She was drawn to the dresser, a sense of urgency gnawed at her. With shaking hands, she yanked open the top drawer. Inside, she found nothing but old receipts and dust bunnies. A sense of disappointment washed over her, but she refused to give in. There had to be something here, she had to believe it. As she rifled through the drawer, a sudden knock reverberated from the door behind her. Panic surged through her. "Who is there?" She called out, voice shaky. Silence answered her, amplifying the shadows that seemed to thicken around her. Swallowing hard, Claire turned back to the dresser. She opened the second drawer with renewed vigor, her heart racing. A glimmer caught her eye, something metallic. She reached in and pulled out a small, tarnished key. It felt cold against her palm, as if it had absorbed the very essence of despair. A chill danced on her skin. What is this for? She thought, thoughts racing. Could it be the key to understanding the cries for help from the woman? Or was it a key to something far more sinister? Before she could ponder further, once again the scream ripped through the air, louder this time, echoing from the depths of the building. It had shifted from a cry of fear to one of anguish, resonating with Claire's very bones. She clutched the key tightly, adrenaline fueling her next steps. She couldn't turn back now. Eager to flee the oppressive atmosphere of room 22, Claire dashed toward the door. But just as her hand reached for the knob, a reflection in the dresser mirror caught her eye. She froze. In that instant it was as if the glass had come alive. Another woman was trapped within its surface, eyes wide with terror, mouth agape as if screaming silently for help. Claire stumbled backward, her breath hitching in her throat. She was not alone. The dark presence of the room was greater than she imagined. She had come seeking answers, but she had unwittingly unleashed something. Heart racing, she had to decide, would she flee the room while she still could, or face whatever malevolent force had been unleashed that night? With a resolute breath, she whispered to the mirror, "What do you want from me?" An electric surge filled the air, and the room felt like it was holding its breath, waiting for her next move. Before she could react, the mirror began to crack, running spiderwebs across its surface, as if ready to spill out the anguish it contained. What unseen horror lay on the other side? Would she uncover the truth or become another shadow lost within the motel's haunted legacy? The weight of that question lingered like a storm cloud over her head as Claire prepared to confront the darkness brewing behind the shattered glass. Claire's heart raced as the cracks in the mirror spread, sharp lines slicing through the darkness. She felt drawn to it, the overwhelming desire to understand what lay beyond becoming an irresistible pull. With each crack, whispers slithered into her ears, words half-formed, laced with desperation. Help her, they felt urgent, enticing, luring her closer. She shook her head, trying to clear the noise, dizziness washing over her. Another bone-chilling scream echoed, and she stumbled back, clutching the key tightly. The metallic taste of fear coated her tongue. She forced herself to blink and looked again. Now the reflection wasn't just the terrified woman. She caught sight of vague silhouettes, shadows swirling like smoke behind her in the glass. Damn it! Claire spat, torn between the desire to flee the room and the yearning to help. The key felt heavy in her hand, almost vibrating as if it had a heartbeat of its own. The air grew thick, stifling. No longer cold, it draped over her like a wet blanket. "What are you hiding?" Claire shouted, her voice echoing in the stillness. "Show yourself." As if in response, the mirror rippled like water disturbed. A face emerged, lips moving silently. Claire pressed her hands to her ears, trying to block out the cacophony of tortured voices. Then, the glass snapped. Shards exploded outward, glinting like stars in the dim light. Claire raised her arm to shield her face, but one shard grazed her cheek, hot and stinging. She winced but felt a rush of adrenaline. A moment of clarity pierced through the madness. The key. She realized. The urge to find what it unlocked surged, perhaps her way to confront the horrors trapped inside that mirror. She dashed back to the dresser, her heart pounding in double time. The room spun. She rifled through the remaining drawers, frantically searching. Nothing. Just remnants of a forgotten life scattered across wood and dust. "Think, Claire," she muttered under her breath. "There has to be something." She turned her gaze to the corner of the room where an old trunk lay, riddled with rust and age. Desperation propelled her forward. The trunk was locked, but the moment she laid her hands on it, she felt a surge of warmth spreading from her palm, an echo of the key's powerful pull. She fumbled through her pockets, her breath quickening as her fingers brushed against the cool metal. The key slid into the lock smoothly, almost welcomingly. With a turn and a click, the trunk creaked open, releasing a thick cloud of dust. Claire coughed, the musty scent overpowering. Inside lay old photographs, yellowed and curling, and amongst them, a journal wrapped in leather, a treasure chest of memories from a life that once thrived in this very space. Gingerly, she picked up the journal, her fingers trembling as she opened it to the first page. The handwriting was shaky but unmistakably frantic. "I thought I could escape, but the darkness followed." Suddenly, a sharp chill gripped her spine. The journal felt alive, pulsing with energy. It had answers, she felt it in her bones. "Please help her," a voice whispered, lingering like smoke, reforming into the cries she had heard. The journal was the key to understanding. Maybe it could set them free. Claire's resolve hardened. She would read every word, uncover every secret, and put an end to the suffering that lingered in the shadows. But as she flipped through the pages, a single passage caught her eye: "They'll come for you too, you mustn't be the next." A jolt of fear coursed through her, anchoring her in place. Who were they? And what if the darkness wanted to claim her next? The room began to vibrate, the air crackling with tension. Claire felt the walls closing in. She had to choose her next step wisely. Would the truth she sought bring liberation or doom? And as she heard the faint whispers grow louder, closing in on her, she knew one thing for sure: she was not just a guest anymore. The hunt had begun, and something was coming for her. What awaited her outside of room 22, where shadows danced and secrets lurked? Only one thing was certain. Claire was in deeper than she ever imagined. Claire gripped the journal tight, its rough leather scratching against her trembling fingers. The whispers crescendoed around her, a cacophony of sorrow and fear that reverberated through the cramped room. She squeezed her eyes shut, fighting against the pull of dread creeping into her mind. "You mustn't be the next." The words echoed louder now, almost mocking her resolve. What did that even mean? Who were they? And, most hauntingly, could they really come for her too? The air thickened as if the very room were a living entity, watching, waiting. Heart racing, Claire hesitated to flip through more pages, but an irresistible force compelled her. Every line she scanned seemed to drip with urgency. She found herself lost in stories of despair, accounts of the hauntings that plagued those before her. Every detail revealed a puzzle piece to her own growing terror. Suddenly, a loud bang jolted her back to reality. Panic washed over her. That noise was it from behind the door. The whispers retreated momentarily into silence, leaving only her pounding heartbeat and the thrum of her blood in her ears. Claire stood frozen, every muscle tense. Steeling herself, she took a cautious step towards the door, her breath hitching in her throat. She pressed her ear against the cold wood, straining to hear. Footsteps soft but steady coming closer. Then, a shadow danced under the slim crack at the bottom of the door. It was her mind playing tricks. There was definitely something on the other side, and it was near. With a swell of adrenaline ripping through her, she stepped back and grabbed the journal, cradling it to her chest. Whatever was outside, she wouldn't face it empty-handed. The door creaked open slightly, a whisper of movement urging her back into the shadows. A figure slipped inside, tall and obscured, casting a long silhouette against the wall. Claire could barely breathe. Fear clawed at her throat, paralyzing her as the figure paused and turned. "Help her," the voice croaked. It echoed eerily, just like the whispers from the mirror. "Who are you?" Claire asked, her own voice barely more than a whisper. The figure stepped into the dim light, revealing a gaunt face framed by dark, tangled hair. The eyes were wide, glistening with a strange mix of hope and pain. "You're in danger. You can't trust the journal. It's not what it seems." Her mind whirled, confusion mixing with fear. "What do you know about it? What happened here?" The figure took another step forward, their urgency palpable. "You need to listen. The darkness will come for you, and it's hungry." Claire's heart raced as dread flooded her senses. The figure's pale hand reached out, trembling as if grasping for something just beyond reach. "The only way to stop it is by leaving or facing it head-on." Claire's chest tightened. "But what's in the journal? What does it hide?" "Truths that will tear you apart. Secrets they don't want you to know," they said urgently. "Once you unravel it, there's no coming back. You'll awaken what sleeps beneath." The dread coiled around her heart like a vice. Could she turn back now? But how could she just walk away, empty? Before she could respond, the figure jerked back, eyes wide in terror. "They're here." The air around her thickened, charged with a dark energy that sent shivers down her spine. Claire turned just in time to see shadowy forms emerging from the corners of the room, creeping closer, moving with malevolent intent. "No!" She screamed, adrenaline igniting her body into motion. She dashed for the door, but it slammed shut with a bone-rattling thud. The figure lunged at her, grabbing her arm. "You must fight. The key. It's time to unlock the truth." The shadows drew nearer, their shapes swirling like smoke, eager to claim their next victim. Claire felt the weight of the journal pulling her down, the urgency of the whispers drowning out everything else. what truth awaited her when the mirror's darkness finally clawed its way to the surface. The hunt was far from over, and in that moment of despair, the only thing she could think was, would she survive to tell her own story? Or would she become another whisper in the night? Claire's heart pounded in her chest, a frantic drum echoing amidst the chaos. The figure's grip tightened on her arm, their breath coming in staggered gasps. You have to fight. Don't let them take you. Her mind raced an internal battle between fear and resolve. Shadows twisted around her, whispering her name, promising oblivion just beyond the threshold of panic. What if the journal held the key to stopping them? But what if it didn't? Why do I need to fight? She shouted, an edge of desperation breaking through her voice. What are they? The figure's eyes widened again, shining with wild intensity. They are the ones trapped, betrayed by the truths hidden in that journal. You must unlock the past to free them or seal your fate forever. The shadows surged forward, tendrils of darkness weaving through the air. Claire stumbled back, adrenaline spurring her feet into motion despite the panic threatening to freeze her soul. All she felt was urgency. She sprinted toward the hidden window, her only escape. Claire! The figure called, their voice cracking with emotion. You have to understand the price you pay for knowledge. She glanced back, caught between the allure of discovery and the fear of what lay behind her. I don't have time for this. With a final, desperate thrust, she flung herself against the window, shattering the glass with a deafening crash. Sharp shards rained down around her, but she couldn't afford to feel pain. She needed to escape. As she dove through the opening, the jagged glass grazed her shoulder, leaving a furious sting in its wake. But the feeling was trivial in the face of the encroaching darkness. Behind her, the figure shouted, remember. The key is within you. Her feet hit the ground outside, and she stumbled into the darkened alley, breathless. But the shadows followed, slithering after her, more relentless than the cold night air. Claire's feet pounded against the pavement, heart racing as she turned the corner. Why won't you leave me alone? Her voice quaked, a mix of anger and fear spiraling through her, but no answer came. The whispering shadows extended their claw-like limbs, merging with the darkness of the night, their intentions clear. Claire pressed forward, weaving through the maze of alleyways, desperate for a place to hide. Just then, a flicker of light caught her eye. A faint glow emanated from a small door at the end of one alley. Without thinking, she darted toward it, praying it was a sanctuary rather than another trap. As she neared, the door swung open, revealing a dilapidated motel lobby, its neon sign buzzing above, a flickering promise amidst the chaos. She rushed inside, feeling a momentary sense of relief when the door thudded shut behind her, but it was short-lived. Gears whirred, and behind the receptionist's desk, the very shadows she fled from began to seep in, creeping toward her. You think you can escape? A distorted voice echoed, merging with the rattle of the neon lights. You're entangled in our web now. Her blood ran cold. The stories in the journal, the history of this place. The hairs on her arms stood on end as she realized the truth she sought was spinning toward her like a predator in the dark. Please! She cried, back pressed against the door. I just want to understand. I want to help. Help? The voice sneered, shadows swirling in a grotesque dance. You will only drown in the depths of the truth. Claire's breath caught, terror squeezing her heart. In that moment, she understood the weight of her choices. The figure from her past had warned her knowledge could lead to salvation or ruin. With nerves flaring, she reached into her pocket, her fingers brushing against the journal's leather cover. Memories surged back, the whispers, the desperation. Show me. She shouted, her voice filling the small room. If I'm to confront this darkness, I need to see it all. The shadows paused, encircling her like a vice, and then, with an unsettling stillness, they drew back. Very well, the voice echoed, and Claire felt a terrible anticipation vibrating through the air. The truth would come at a price. But Claire was ready, determined to face whatever nightmare lay ahead, and as the shadows recoiled, a vortex of memories erupted in the air around her, revealing ancient horrors and unspeakable truths that begged to be uncovered. What terrible revelations would unravel before her? Would she be ready for the truth that waited just beyond the threshold of her understanding? The air crackled with tension as Claire stood, heart racing, facing the swirling shadows. The memories danced in front of her like phantoms, a chilling spectacle of horror and grief. Whispers coiled around her, each one laced with anguish, each one demanding to be heard. She had opened a door, and now it felt as if the past itself rushed forth, seeking release. Suddenly, a memory thrust itself forward, vivid and violent. A woman, eyes wide with fear, stood in the very lobby where Claire now trembled. The scent of decay clung to the air as she gripped something, a journal, tattered and stained. "This is how it started," the apparition gasped, her voice layered with desperation. Claire stumbled backward, the cold shock of realization gripping her. The woman was trapped, and in that moment, she understood the journal was a beacon, binding them together across time. "What happened to you?" Claire whispered, urgency clawing at her voice. The spectral figure went pale, reaching toward Claire as if she could bridge the divide with a touch. "Everything, it was hidden, to protect us. But the truths return, and they seek a sacrifice." With a sharp exhale, the apparition faded, leaving Claire alone with her thoughts of consequences, of choices that haunted like ghosts. "Sacrifice?" Claire echoed, her voice trembling. She glanced at the journal, its cover shimmering ominously. "What do I need to give?" In that instant, the shadows surged forward, filling the room with a rush of cold air. "You are the key," the voice taunted, its sound a cacophony of sinister laughter. "Unlock the pages, and know the cost." Claire's fingers shook as she opened the journal. The pages were yellowed, the ink scrawled in a frantic script. Each word pulled her deeper, weaving a spell of despair around her heart. Tales of betrayal, loss, and shadowy figures danced before her like flickering candlelight. Each line resonated like a heartbeat, a grim reminder of lives intertwined by fate. "Read it." The dark voice hissed, delighted by her hesitation. "Let the truth consume you." Claire fought against her trepidation. With a shaky breath, she began to read aloud. The air thickened, tension mounting with each word, as if the shadows themselves hungered for the truth. She spoke of the betrayal that had ignited the chaos, of lives torn apart by the very secrets she now held in her hands. "Stop!" she shouted suddenly, slamming the book shut, fear rippling through her. Even as she spoke, she felt the pull of the shadows creeping closer, urging her to continue, to surrender. "I won't give in. That's not your choice to make," the voice whispered darkly, its intensity swirling around her. Claire's resolve threatened to break. The shadows howled in response, echoing her turmoil. "No. I can't," but the journal slipped from her fingers, falling open on the floor as if it had a will of its own. Suddenly, the room shimmered. The shadows recoiled as a blinding light exploded from the pages, enveloping Claire entirely. With a feeling akin to descent, she was pulled into the depths of the journal, into a world where the truths were not just written but lived. Visions rushed at her, scenes of despair and wrath. Claire saw faces twisted in pain, memories replaying over and over, like an incessant replay of a nightmare. Her stomach churned at the intensity of it all. She was no longer just reading, she was witnessing history. "Are you ready to pay the price?" The voice broke through her thoughts, a chilling caress in the chaos. Claire felt her heart pounding loud in her ears, the weight of the moment suffocating. What sacrifice was needed? And would it cost her everything she had? Yet deep within, a fire ignited, a fierce desire to uncover the truth. "Show me!" she screamed, but as the light surged around her, something shifted. What if she couldn't return? What if this truth sealed her fate? As her vision blurred, she wondered if she was losing herself entirely or on the verge of discovery. Would she unravel the terror of the past or become its next victim? And then, just as abruptly as it began, the world faded to black, leaving only silence. In that silence, Claire clenched her eyes shut and waited. What awaited her in that darkness? Would she emerge stronger, or would she succumb to the shadows she so desperately feared? The moment of truth hung in the air like a thread ready to snap. Claire felt as if she was falling, yet there was no ground to hit. This darkness enveloped her like a shroud, dense and consuming. Time lost its meaning, stretching into an eternity of confusion. Then, a glimmer of reality pierced through the void. A flickering light beckoned her forward. In that moment, Claire emerged into a new scene. She was in a dimly lit room, heavy with an unsettling atmosphere. The walls bore stains, remnants of anguish long past. She noticed a weathered wooden table, a single flickering candle casting elongated shadows. The echoes of whispered voices seeped into her consciousness, a fragile tapestry woven with sorrow and dread. "Welcome, Claire," a voice crooned, echoing from nowhere and everywhere at the same time. Shivers crawled down her spine. She whipped around, searching for the source, yet no one stood there. "You've come for the truth. What is this place?" She breathed, her throat dry, heart pounding fiercely in her chest. "This is the space where all fates intertwine, where stories lost to time find their voice." The voice hissed, thick with malice. The shadows slithered around her, as if the room itself were alive, aware. "You will witness the untold horrors, but beware the cost." As soon as the words left the voice, the air shimmered again, revealing images flashing vividly before her. On the floor, she saw a woman, a reflection of the figure from earlier, clutching the same journal. The woman's face was streaked with tears, her body trembling in despair. "They'll never let me go," she wailed, a haunting sound that clawed at Claire's heart. "Who are you?" Claire demanded, but her voice felt insignificant. The shadows laughed, a chilling serenade that echoed in the corners. The woman raised her head, eyes glimmering with unshed tears. "I am she who was forsaken. I held the truth and paid the ultimate price. Now it's your turn." The shadows demanded. Images morphed and twisted, pulling Claire into a vortex of madness. She saw a man standing over a bloodied figure, a betrayal so deep it echoed within her. Visions of grief, rage, and despair set her skin ablaze with emotion. She felt the weight of their sorrow crush her chest. "Stop! I can't," Claire gasped, a frantic pulse of fear racing through her veins. She tried to shield her eyes from the horror, but the scenes enveloped her, dragging her deeper. "What is it you seek?" The voice rasped, slithering through her defenses. The darkness surged forth, whispering relentless promises. "The truth will set you free, but it will cost everything." "No!" she screamed, desperation clawing at her throat. The echoes of the past twisted into her mind, threatening to unravel her sanity. "I don't want this." Suddenly, the ephemeral scenes shifted, revealing a garden bathed in moonlight, a radially stark contrast to the horrific memories she had just witnessed. But even in its beauty, an uneasiness lingered. Flowers bloom, but what lay beneath them? The air thrummed with unanswered questions. "Every truth comes with a price, Claire," the voice crooned, its tone almost tender. "Will you pay it?" Heart racing, Claire understood then that the shadows were testing her will. The journal, the visions, it was all a labyrinth designed to ensnare her. She took a shaky breath, feeling the heaviness in her chest begin to suffocate her. "What will I lose?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. The shadows pulsed, anticipating her decision. Their laughter echoed, twisting into a chilling symphony that surrounded her like a predator stalking its prey. "Only the ties that bind you to this world." Claire's mind raced. What if the sacrifice was her identity? Her very soul? Did she dare uncover the truth about herself amidst this darkness? As the shadows lunged, enveloping her thoughts, Claire steadied her stance. She could feel her resolve burning, fiercer than before. "I will face whatever price is demanded," she declared, her voice resolute. But in that instant, the ground beneath her shifted again, pulling her back into the void. The candle flickered violently before it extinguished, leaving her in complete darkness. "Will you leave behind the past?" The voice whispered, now barely more than a breath. The choice is yours, but choose wisely. In that silence once more, Claire trembled, clenching her fists. What awaited her on the other side? Would the journal reveal the truth she sought, or would she lose herself entirely to the shadows that haunted her step by step? The question lingered in the air, heavy as the darkness pressed in around her. Claire gasped as her senses surged, the void cracking open once more, and she was thrust into another scene. This time, she landed hard on a cold, damp floor, gasping for breath as sharp memories flooded back. Familiar, yet unsettling. The stench of mold wafted through the air, assaulting her nostrils. She glanced around, the remnants of a shabby motel room, the wallpaper peeling, the worn-out furniture contrasting starkly with the dark secrets the walls held. A mirror hung crookedly on the wall, reflecting a ghostly version of herself. Shadows danced around her, but her eyes were drawn to the other half of the glass. A figure stood there, a man with hollow eyes and a tormented expression, his mouth moving but no sound escaping. "Please," he mouthed, desperation etched on his features. Claire felt her heart race. Who was he? Suddenly, the air crackled with urgency. The whispers surrounded her again, growing louder. "You have to embrace it, Claire. This is your chance." They echoed with resentment, sinister and alluring at once. "Embrace what?" she shouted, her voice trembling. "Embrace the knowledge of the departed," the shadows taunted, inching closer. They seemed to form an audience, hungry for the unfolding tragedy. The spectral figure reached for her, his hand pressed against the glass. In a moment of instinct, Claire reached out to him, her hand connecting with the smooth surface. There was a jolt of energy, and in that instant, images flashed before her like a strobe light: family members, friends, and an unmarked grave surrounded by twisted oaks. A fog settled in her mind, clouding her thoughts with dread. "What happened to you?" Claire cried. The man's eyes shimmered with memories, pain, and stories left untold. "I lost everything," he finally spoke, his voice raw and broken. "It was here, in this very place. Betrayal, death, all for a secret too heavy to bear. You must know, Claire. You must understand before it consumes you." She could feel the shadows tightening their grip around her. "You're connected to me somehow, aren't you? What do you want me to learn?" As the words spilled from her lips, the world shifted yet again. Everything blurred into darkness, and when it cleared, she was standing at the motel's entrance. The neon sign sputtered above her, casting eerie shadows on the cracked pavement below. It was then Claire noticed her reflection in the glass door. She looked different, haunted. The woman in the mirror wasn't who she remembered. A chill crept up her spine. What had she agreed to leave behind? The decision hung heavy on her heart. Tension spiraled around her as the whispers swelled. Do you fear the truth? Or do you crave the unraveling of your past? The energy pulsed, almost electrifying, as the door slowly creaked open, revealing a narrow hallway beneath flickering lights, with each step beckoning her deeper. Claire's resolve tested with each troubling question. What awaited her in that dim corridor? What shadows still lurked, bound to the secrets she dared to uncover? She hesitated, her heart pounding in her throat, but a pull seemed to guide her forward. Just as she took her first step, the world resonated with a bone-chilling echo of laughter, swallowing her whole. Face your fears, Claire, or they will consume you whole. The truth is just down the hall. And in that moment of hesitation and terror, a creeping realization washed over her. The deeper she ventured, the more perilous her journey became. Would she emerge with the answers she sought, or become another lost soul in the shadows of the motel's grim legacy? The corridor loomed ahead, steeped in shadows that twisted like dark fingers reaching for Claire. Each flicker of the overhead lights cast unsettling ghosts across the walls. She could feel it, the weight of her own dread and the spirits imprisoned in this place amplifying the air around her. Face your fears, echoed the voice like an incantation, demanding her compliance. She took a step forward, the worn carpet muffling her footfalls. Her heart raced as memories and broken promises seeped from the walls. What awaited her at the end of this corridor? Claire drew a shaky breath, clenched the journal tight against her chest, and steeled herself. The shadows coalesced and whispered her name again, a chorus of despair urging her deeper into the dark. Suddenly, the journal slipped from her grasp, hitting the ground with a soft thud. She hesitated, glancing back. A flicker of movement by the door caught her eye, the figure from the mirror. Panic flooded through her again, but the man's face morphed into something gentler, urgency illuminated his haunted expression. "Don't run from your truth, Claire." Without thinking, she snatched up the journal. "What do you mean? What truth?" Surges of fiery chaos wrapped her mind, but she needed to know. The answers were clawing their way to the surface, desperate to escape. As Claire pushed deeper down the corridor, the shadows shimmered and twisted into shapes she'd never seen. Encroaching darkness pressed against her, an intense sensation in the air, tangible and electric. She spoke despite herself. "What secrets do you hide?" An overwhelming rush of energy surged from the journal, revealing snippets of lives once intertwined, once vibrant within these walls. Their loss and despair echoed in the emptiness surrounding her. "You must take it back. Undo what was wronged," the ethereal voices implored, growing louder with each step she took. Her breath quickened as the last door at the end of the hall came into view, standing ajar, a radiant glow spilling from inside. Hesitation gripped Claire once more. Was it safety, or would it plunge her into further chaos? But she could almost hear the whispers of those lost souls, crying out in unison. "Find the light," their voices urged, wrapping around her, squeezing out her fears. With a newfound resolve, Claire flung the door open. The room before her was radiant, drenched in golden light. Papers hung in mid-air, swirling like leaves in a tempest. Family photos, letters, and remnants of lives that echoed with joy and heartache enveloped her. Despite their fragmented state, a vibrant energy emanated from the chaos, a tapestry of life and death. Amongst the dance of documents, she spotted a familiar face, a younger version of the man from the mirror, smiling, brimming with life. Claire stepped closer, unable to contain the rush of emotion as she reached out. "What happened to you?" she choked, her voice steadying. "What must I do?" And then, a surge of clarity washed over her like waves crashing against the shore. The shadows began to shift, morphing, no longer menacing but revealing the truth buried within. Mistakes were made. Forgiveness sought, it all tied to you, the figure's voice whispered through the air like a gentle breeze. "Set us free, Claire, reclaim your story." With trembling hands, she opened the journal again. It pulsed with life, resonating her heartbeat as she began reading the words penned long ago. Painful truths spilled forth with each breath, laying bare the darkness and honesty that had plagued the motel and its patrons. Claire felt chills racing down her spine. The story echoed a history steeped in betrayal, a family torn apart, deceit birthed in this very space. The price of the truth revealed itself as she traced the cursive handwriting. The cries of the past blended with her own heartbeat, each word a step closer to resolution. Suddenly, there came a climactic cry, a crescendo of anguish erupting from every corner of existence. The shadows began to swirl violently, a furious cyclone of energy intent to push her back, but Claire stood firm. "Enough!" she yelled, her voice ringing clear as the layers of turmoil unraveled. "I'm breaking the cycle. I forgive you." She could feel her heart ignite fire, pushing out the cold. Each word she spoke difficult but liberating. The swirling shadows hesitated, recoiling from her light. Releasing the pent-up emotion, Claire continued. "Everything is forgiven. The past does not define our present." With those final words, the journal shimmered like a supernova, and the shadows broke apart, retreating into the corners. The man emerged from the chaos, finally whole. He stepped forward as the whispers turned into sighs of relief. "By confronting me through my truth, you've set us free." The room swelled with light, blinding and warm. Claire felt herself being lifted, embraced by the energy of all that was released. As if the history contained in this space finally found its peace, Claire's thoughtful moment turned resolute. She allowed herself to breathe, filling her lungs with the air of liberation, finally understanding she could rewrite her story as she stepped outside, no longer bound by the shadows. The sunlight illuminated her as she stood at the entrance of the motel. The curse had lifted, history would no longer dictate who she became. As her eyes roamed over the parking lot, a new dawn broke over the horizon, and having conquered the darkness, Claire exhaled deeply, filled with gratitude for both pain and healing. She turned away from the old Maple Inn, stepping forward into a future shimmering with promise. Remember, when shadows fall, sometimes the bravest acts lie in facing the truth and finding your way back to the light. If you found strength in Claire's tale tonight, you need to subscribe now. You don't want to miss the next thrilling story we bring you. Smash that like button so we can keep this amazing community alive. And don't hesitate, flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about what just transpired. Lastly, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this conclusion. Let us continue this journey together.